During acquisitions or during mergers, companies often fall victim to pricing because they can't share the data beforehand. Typically there are restrictions from the government or entities that regulate them that restrict the sharing of information. Now, this can be solved by using a third company or setting up a clean room in which you can actually have third parties share the information from both of the merged entities and perform analysis on that to come up with the new price strategies and execution for improvement initiatives. During an M&A is the perfect time to address pricing, because at that time you can look at price strategies, and if you merge two companies, it's the perfect time to actually revise those pricing strategies and align them to the new merged entity. If you look at price execution, when you're looking at pricing policies or procedures, both companies that are being merged together might have very different policies and procedures, and that is the perfect time again to start changing those and come up with policies and procedures that are unified and really avoid margin leakage. Another aspect of it all is, if you look at organizational alignment or incentives, when you put together two companies, they have different sales forces, different structures, different compensation systems. They are expecting some kind of change, some kind of alignment. Aligning both organizations and their incentives to look at and focus on what is going to drive margin to the bottom line. Another aspect of a merger and acquisition is tax and tax effectiveness. If two companies are now merging and they have manufacturing plants in one area and sales outlets in another state of the US or even in the world, the rest of the world, aligning those tax incentives and aligning the tax strategies is a very good way of driving margin to the bottom line. Companies typically can tell if they have a pricing problem when their margins aren't increasing as they used to, or we have some kind of a top revenue decline, and that is when you can start looking at transactional analysis to understand where you might be losing margin or where margin leakage could be occurring. Companies can go down the route of transactional analysis, and the idea is to gather a lot of information that the company has and understand the information at the transactional level. You can come up with typically a price waterfall and understand each of the buckets or each of the areas where a company might be losing margin. With the advancement of computer processing power and hardware and technology advancements, companies can really start looking at improving pricing, and the technology for pricing and pricing tools are also developing and have developed really over the past 5 to 7 years. You see new companies come up with specific pricing tools that will help enable the analysis at the transactional level, which is really where the benefits lie. Companies often focus on the strategy side because that's typically what comes to mind when you start thinking about pricing. How do you set the prices? What is the strategy for your pricing? When we talk about pricing, we talk really about pricing and profitability management, which is once you set the price, which is the price strategy, everything else that comes after that until you put the money in your pocket. We talk typically about a pocket margin, and when you do a transaction analysis and you look at the price setting or the list price, down everything in the price waterfall down to the pocket margin is where you can come up with this analysis and understand where you might be losing margin.